seen them. 4 years and God knows how many hours of running on streets like this. Running for nations where boxing isn't just a sport, it's religion. 4 years since their epic first meeting in the ring, and here they are again, headed once more for the same place, separated by only one thing: time. It was May 2004, a hot Saturday night in Las Vegas. Juan Manuel Marquez was the featherweight champion of the world, and challenger Manny Pacquiao was looking to erase a long Mexican stranglehold on the division.
Both fighters were searching for a higher level of identity and for a platform for proving not just how good they were, but who they were as fighters.
Some great fights take a few rounds to develop.
And he fires the straight left hand, and there's the punching power.
This one took just seconds.
So to see him get knocked down, that right there was surreal.
And Juan Manuel Marquez has been down twice.
To see him get knocked down twice more in the same round.
This is why we use the word sensation.
It was shocking.
Third knockdown of the first round, and I'm not sure Juan Manuel will be able to get up.
Oh my God, this guy's a monster.
I think everybody was wondering, how long is he gonna last against this relentless Tasmanian devil of a fighter?
But Marquez persevered through the Filipinos' early onslaught. And then, as the fight wore on, turned the punishment Pacquiao's way.
Hard right hand stuns Pacquiao. And it could be the comeback of a lifetime for Juan Manuel Marquez.
And the atmosphere ringside began to shift. Marquez somehow, improbably, was not only just surviving, he was taking over the fight.
Freddie Roach began to crack the whip in between rounds.
You don't let this guy take control of the fight, you hear me?
Pacquiao soon found a way to regroup himself, recovering with a vengeance.
Pacquiao's hand speed coming back. Suddenly, he's more aggressive.
Pacquiao's sheer level of violence and energy would rise up and put Marquez back in compromising positions.
Things ended as fiercely as they had begun that night in Vegas. But after 12 rounds, there was no victor. It would be left to the judges to render a verdict for history to record.
The bout is a draw.
4 years later, the matter remains unsettled. This is the countdown to a resolution. This is the countdown to Marquez Pacquiao 2.
Little pivot, come on, use that pivot.
A boxer's memory can be a useful tool.
One, two, hook.
And in Manny Pacquiao's case, as he prepares for his rematch with Juan Manuel Marquez, his memory of the night of May 8th, 2004 remains particularly vivid and haunting.
30 seconds left in the first. Marquez has been down 3 times already.
I dropped him 3 times in the first round, and you know, I told myself I couldn't believe it.
And Pacquiao lands another huge left and another big one.
We had such a fast start and exciting start with the 3 knockdowns in the first round. I thought the fight was over.
Manny Pacquiao is a storm.
Marquez survived. He weathered the storm and came back the next round.
Marquez gained momentum as the fight wore on, and even dominated the action at times.
Last chance to make a statement as the bell gets ready to ring. What a battle.
Manny Pacquiao has huge heart and huge desire, and he thinks of himself as a guy who should never lose. I think it was embarrassing to him that he could knock a guy down 3 times in the first round, fail to finish him, and then wind up in a draw.
The bout is a draw.
He felt that he let the Filipino people down. He felt that he didn't live up to his country's expectations. And I think he believed that he didn't live up to Freddie Roach's expectations, his own expectations.
I feel like I'm crying because I do my best in that fight, and the decision is draw.
After that fight, I get a lot of criticism that Manny was just a one-handed fighter. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make him a better fighter, and we just worked really, really hard on the right hand, the jab and the hook. And slowly it came, and then he started knocking guys out with the right hand as well as the left.
And that's a stoppage.
I just wanted to improve him and improve to the people that I could make him a better fighter.
The work has paid off. Pacquiao's 8 fights since Marquez have included 2 victories against Eric Morales in an epic trilogy. And most recently, a decisive win over yet another Mexican legend, Marco Antonio Barrera.
I think Manny Pacquiao has made clear what he learned because his boxing skills have improved significantly since that time. I mean, consider, he was already a recognized world champion and he got better technically in the middle of his career. Not very many fighters are able to pull that off. And I think that the Marquez fight was probably the graphic object lesson which helped to convince Manny that he needed to improve his level of craft, and he did.
Well, I'm same fighter, Manny Pacquiao, but since 2004, 4 years ago, I think I learned a lot of experience and a lot of techniques.
Techniques he looks forward to displaying for Juan Manuel Marquez on March 15th. 7,000 feet above sea level, atop centuries-old Aztec ruins, sits Mexico City, one of the world's largest metropolises, and where each night, on his way home from the Romanza gym, Juan Manuel Marquez navigates winding and busy streets and reflects on what might have been.
Marquez waited years for a chance to rise to the top in the division. Here was the opportunity.
Después del primer round, que fue un infierno para mí, lo que teníamos que usar era la inteligencia. En ese primer round salí confiadísimo.
And in round 1, Manny Pacquiao suddenly shut out the lights.
Fue una pelea difícil, muy difícil, porque Manny Pacquiao tenía una velocidad en extremo y una manera de boxear no muy clara.
This is not the fight that Juan Manuel Marquez would have wanted.
What Marquez prefers to focus on from that night is not the 3 knockdowns, but rather the remarkable comeback that ensued in the 11 rounds that followed.
Marquez had figured him out. Now the question in your mind becomes, could Marquez win so many rounds that he'll actually make up for the first round deficit and catch Manny in the fight?
Conforme transcurrían los rounds, nosotros sabíamos y tenía la certeza de que íbamos ganando los rounds en aquella pelea.
That confidence propelled Marquez to the final bell. But the judge's decision was far from what he thought he deserved.
Después de que dieron el resultado no quedé conforme, porque después de levantarme del primer round de las caídas y de hacer un gran trabajo, 11 rounds, y después nos dicen que la pelea era empate, que yo creo que hice el desempeño para ganar, merecí ganar y no quedé conforme con lo que dieron en ese 2004.
The draw against Pacquiao and the resilient courage he showed in the ring that night led to calls for a rematch and a chance for Marquez's star to grow further. But when he wasn't happy with the money being offered, he turned down the deal. Over the next few years, as epic rivalries between Morales, Barrera, and Pacquiao blossomed and dominated the division, Marquez was left to watch from a distance.
Pues yo creo mal, me sentía mal que yo creo que se estaba repartiendo, como quien dice, las grandes peleas.
If anybody's tarnished from that draw, it should be Manny, right? But it was Marquez who couldn't get the fights that he wanted and couldn't get the exposure that he wanted after the draw with Pacquiao. It was Marquez whose career more or less went back into the dumper.
It's not necessarily the best fighter who gets paid the most. It's the most popular fighter. Marquez didn't want that, wanted equity, walked away from the table, walked away from the rematch, walked away from his promoter.
2 years after the Pacquiao fight, Marquez's career bottomed out. He took a fight in Indonesia for the meager sum of $30,000 against Chris John and lost, a devastating blow for an already floundering career.
Losing to Chris John was a huge setback for Juan Manuel Marquez and put him in a position for a moment where you wondered, well, will he ever get a Pacquiao rematch?
In the Southeast Asian islands of the Philippines, there is no bigger star than Manny Pacquiao, who rose from poverty in the rolling hills of Cabawe to become a champion worshipped by millions. But Pacquiao is training for his rematch with Juan Manuel Marquez, far from his homeland, 7,000 miles across the Pacific Ocean, in a place perhaps not known for boxers, but surely fit for stars.
Most fighters, they go to Big Bear, California, or the Poconos. They're in the mountains somewhere. They're out in the desert, you know, somewhere in some ranch, and there's not a person for miles around. Manny Pacquiao, to get away from everything, comes to Hollywood.
Hooray for Hollywood, that screwy valley, hooey Hollywood.
Hollywood, California may be an unlikely place to seek refuge from fame. But it's a fitting home away from home for Pacquiao, whose stardom back in the Philippines spans from the boxing ring to the music charts to the movie screen.
Dito na ako lumaki at dito na tumigas ang buto ko. Tapos palalayasin niyo ako rito? Oh!
Yeah, Manny in the movies, he wants to be Bruce Lee, I think. He's just like, anything he does in the Philippines is kind of like turns to gold and so forth. I saw his last movie. He says it's gonna make a premiere in America, but if it does, it'll be short. I'm sorry, Manny.
Pacquiao may not be a movie star in the U.S., but his fame still resonates in the gym.
All right, let's go. Pacquiao time. Everybody out. Let's go. Time to go. Come on.
And when the training day is done, Pacquiao is embraced by fellow Filipinos wherever he goes.
The Thai restaurant that scene is, I think, indicative of how a lot of the Filipinos approach life, which is the group is really important and they like to take care of their friends, take care of their people, and try and include everybody and not leave anybody out.
Yo, check it out. This is Apple the Out from the Black Eyed Peas. Yeah, you. And I'm Filipino, and I'm here to support Manny Pacquiao. Hoy pare, pakinggan niyo ako. Ito na ang tunay na Filipino. Galing sa baryo sa Pambato. Pumunta ng LA, nagtrabaho para makatulong sa nanay. Ikaw ang aking bebo, 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 bebo. Ikaw ay Filipino! Filipino! Yes, sir.
I'm very happy that my countrymen they're always supporting me, and especially during my training. See these guys? Oh, they're all Filipino.
He is our national hero and our national treasure. Viva Manny Pacquiao!
For Pacquiao, relative anonymity permits quiet days and nights like these. But when the sun rises once more, the fighter has little trouble refocusing.
Boxing is my priority in my life because without boxing, you know, nobody knows me.
In the yard behind the Romanza gym, Juan Manuel Marquez embarks on his strength program each afternoon. Archaic at first glance, but devised by a trainer with a proven method to his madness.
Nacho Beristain is a genius artiste trainer. He has some unusual techniques in the gym. He has his own inner thought process about boxing, sort of the way Customato did when he was training Floyd Patterson and Mike Tyson.
Es una persona clave en este deporte para mí, por su experiencia. Para mí es un gran orgullo tenerlo en la esquina, trabajando conmigo.
No, hay un afecto por su conducta, porque es siempre muy respetuoso, porque es mi amigo.
The connection between fighter and trainer has been strengthened over time and has survived questions regarding Beristain's guidance outside the ring.
There was a huge amount of criticism of Nacho Beristain, the manager, after Marquez walked away from a rematch with Pacquiao, went to Indonesia, fought Chris John, lost his title. There's rarely, if ever, been that same criticism of him as a trainer. I think there's a recognition that the two work very well together indeed in the corner.
The relationship dates back decades, when two precocious young punchers, Juan and his brother Rafael, were brought to the gym by their father, a semi-pro fighter himself. Juan Marquez Sr. was in search of someone who could cultivate his son's talent and keep them off the street. Not that sparring could have been expected to be a safe alternative.
No, no fueron sangrientas, pero violentas. Pues a veces Juan hacía chillar a Rafa, y pero de coraje, de impotencia, que no podía con él.
They are always competing in each other. Why? Because Rafael wants to be in the level that Juan Manuel is right now.
Years later, Juan Manuel and Rafael have 85 wins between them and have developed into one of the great brother-brother tandems in boxing history.
Going back in history, I don't think there's anything like the Marquez brothers. Outstanding fighters in different divisions at the same time. There have been many brother acts in boxing, but usually one has been dominant and the other one has just never made it to the elite level.
Training together keeps the brothers close. Meanwhile, outside the gym, family remains the focus for Juan, whose own wife and 3 children provide a nightly respite from workouts and a reminder of the rewards of victory on March 15th.
Yo creo que no hay el amor más verdadero que te puede dar más que tu familia, tus hijos y pues a mí el oírlos que llego y papá, ¿cómo estás? Y ya llegaste, estás cansado y eso pues, me mantiene todavía de pie y aunque llego cansado y aburrido ya del entrenamiento, pero yo creo que eso es lo que me motiva más a seguir entrenando, a seguir poniéndole más empeño al gimnasio, porque te digo, todo lo que hago lo hago por ellos.
Venga, venga. Eso.
A close look at Manny Pacquiao is a display of the place family holds for the fighter. But with his wife and children back in the Philippines, for these 8 weeks of training here in Hollywood, there's no one closer to him than Freddie Roach. For most trainers, boxing is more than a business, and Roach is no exception.
Boxing is Freddie's life. He would rather live right next door, immediately next door to the gym than anywhere else. It's not just the commute, it's also he gets to spend as much time as he possibly can with the boxers.
Quick, yeah, quick. Speed.
I need your power.
The walls of Roach's wild card gym tell the stories of his life. But while there's a long list of championship fighters on his resume, his relationship with Pacquiao stands apart.
Manny, we're pretty tight. I've trained a lot of good fighters, and I've had like 20 world champions, but he's my best project. He was very talented when he came to me, but a little bit rough around the edges, and just smoothing him out and getting him to be a better fighter was my best work to date.
My mother's here. Don't hit me so much.
Freddy is not only a trainer, but he's like my father and my brother. And he give me an advice every day.
You know, the thing is, like, people say I'm 47, I'm not married, I don't have any kids yet. I says, you know what, I got like 15 in the gym, and Pacquiao's my favorite one.
Try his lead out with the feints, okay?
He's just very loyal to me, and I'm very loyal to him, and I don't think he'll ever fight without me in his corner.
Roach first manned that corner in 2001, and Pacquiao's first fight in the U.S., when he was an unknown late replacement against South African Lelo Ledwaba.
I think this guy just hit so hard that Ledwaba is totally on the defensive. That's a TKO victory for the very impressive Manny Pacquiao.
In those days, his Hollywood accommodations were here, next door to the Wild Card Gym, just like his trainer. A time gone, but not forgotten.
We live here 4 years, since 2001 to 2005. You know, it's a very memorable place. I like here before because it's, you know, it's simple.
Now, life has become complicated as Pacquiao's star has grown. But there's one simple theme that still impacts everything he does: his Filipino pride. He's already run for congressional office and even produced a hit record that loudly and proudly exclaims the reason he fights: for his country.
Para sa'yo, ang laban na to. Para sa'yo. I need to win this fight because I don't want to disappoint my countrymen. I want them to be always happy. You know, it's my honor to bring the honor to my country.
Still, though he's trained for over a dozen fights in the wild card, it wasn't until last month that he gave Roach an authentic Filipino flag to replace the paper version that's hung here for years.
Give it to you, the real flag of the Philippines. See? Like that. Yeah.
This way?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Every weekend, Juan Manuel Marquez takes a 3-hour trip to high-altitude training, to places like Nevado de Toluca, one of 3 volcanoes that surround the capital. It's a 16,000-foot journey to the crater, a 16,000-foot unforgiving test of commitment to the task at hand.
He doesn't give up. You need to kill Juan Manuel Marquez in order to defeat him, in order to take away something from him that cost him many punches, many years of dedication.
Even Marquez himself admits that 2004 marked the start of a lost period in his career, as opportunities quickly dried up, costing him titles and respect.
He got lucky. He got a second chance. He signed with Golden Boy Promotions, and I think from that signing, I think he began to work his way back.
Big left hook from Marquez. Suddenly he's beating Barrera to the punch over and over and over.
He desperately needed to beat Marco Antonio Barrera last year.
Uppercut from Marquez. Left hook. Barrera stunned.
And he did.
Big left hook from Marquez. And the bell ends the drama. What a fight.
That was really the watershed moment of Juan Manuel Marquez's career.
The victory over Barrera certified his return to relevancy in the division. And now, finally, 4 years after the controversial draw against Pacquiao, Marquez's odyssey has circled back to where it began.
He's having the last laugh in that he got away from his promoter, which he wanted to do. He's getting a rematch with Pacquiao for a pretty decent amount of money. He managed to not only face but also beat one of his contemporaries and countrymen, Barrera. So in a way, he's back where he should have been. It's just taken 3 or 4 years.
Siempre me he caracterizado por tener la paciencia, la calma y hacerlo todo con inteligencia y gracias a Dios me ha funcionado. Ahorita Barrera ya no está, Morales ya no está, el que queda soy yo y más vale tarde que nunca.
A long journey can have unintended consequences. For Juan Manuel Marquez, the journey to boxing oblivion and back has left him standing, while his countrymen's time has passed. Meaning in this fight, more than ever before, the hopes of a nation will be riding on his back, rising and falling on the strength of his fists and the depth of his spirit.
Mexican boxing fans see in their fighters an expression of who they are. And so their elite fighters touch something deep within their fans.
Por eso me estoy preparando bastante bien, me estoy preparando, yo creo que, como siempre lo he dicho, siempre en cada pelea me preparo bien y en esa me estoy preparando mejor. ¿Por qué? Porque hay muchas esperanzas en mí, la gente mexicana y los fans y todo esperan que le gane a Manny Pacquiao y yo es lo que voy a intentar hacer el 15 de marzo.
Mexican pride is everything. Marquez realizes with this win, he not only solidifies his own legacy, but he will finally get that acceptance from Mexican fight fans.
It's been 4 years since Juan Manuel Marquez and Manny Pacquiao fought to a draw. Since that night, their paths have diverged, but ultimately brought them back to the same place.
I've never seen Manny so focused for a fight. He's a machine. He's just really tightened down, and he's working really hard.
For Pacquiao, this fight is redemption for the last 10 rounds of the first fight. And even though he had a draw, it felt like a defeat. And although he's gone on to great things, Marquez is the guy he's got to beat.
If Marquez wins the fight, then he has reached a brand new high water mark for him, a level of prominence and exposure where he's never been before.
On March 15th, a dispute of the past is revived with a battle in the present, as time finally brings these two fighters together once more.
This is a matchup that you've been waiting for 4 years. It's the coming together of national pride. Both fighters, in their minds and hearts, believe they cannot lose.
Juan Manuel Marquez and Manny Pacquiao square off in the rematch live on HBO pay-per-view, Saturday, March 15th.